Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is Valerie. Valerie is a certified yogi, Ayurvedic practitioner, and a Yogananda devotee. It's such an honor to have you on, Valerie. Welcome on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. And
hmm
and today's some of the topics we'll cover is the Akashic Records,
hmm
Yogananda and the Self-Realization Fellowship, and
hmm
of course Ayurveda. And
Yes.
I'd love, as well as obviously your spiritual journey and how it all led up to this. So I'd love
Mhm.
I'd love to I'd love to hear about that. I'd love to hear about your spiritual journey. How did it all start for you?
All right. So back around 2017, when I was taking my yoga teacher certification, I started learning about Ayurveda. And this word would be like in my brain, ringing in my brain at all times of the day. I would wake up, I would be on a hike. My brain would be like Ayurveda, Ayurveda. And I'm like, what is this?
Mm,
And it was like this pure calling to dive into, first off, my healing so I can help heal others. Um, Tragically, a very dear friend of mine took his life in 2018, in which I decided time to get my life in order. I packed up my little Honda Civic with like $1,000 to my name and drove to California to find a school for Ayurveda to
mm.
really dive deep and begin my spiritual journey.
Beautiful, beautiful. I actually did
Yeah,
the same thing. I drove out from Pennsylvania in my little Honda Civic to San Diego.
funny. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, in 2017 was when January 3rd, I arrived in San Diego.
All right. I left one of the coldest days I've ever felt in the Midwest. It was like -30 wind chill for like almost a week straight, and it was March. And usually we're not that cold in March. It was the beginning of March. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting shoved out of here. Like, let's go to California.
Yep.
Um, got a national park pass, bounced around to parks on my way here, and then arrived in California May of 2019.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
hmm
I'm really happy you took that leap because there's a lot of people that I know that think about it and talk about it, but don't always go for it?
Right, right. Unfortunately, it took a very tragic event for to push me into that, to drive me to do what I need to do in life. And I realized, well, if my dear friend wasn't happy with his life, I need to I need to live my life that I want to live. So it was the push that I needed, unfortunately, to get on my journey.
Hmm.
But yeah, came to California. As soon as I got here, I was exploring a little, kind of deciding where I wanted to live in California. Went up to Nevada City, very spiritual community there,
Hmm.
huge into self-realization fellowship and Paramahansa Yogananda and California College of Ayurveda, which is our oldest school in the US for Ayurveda. It's over 25 years old. It's there in Nevada City, and I loved it.
Oh, wow. So,
However,
okay.
I knew it was going to get cold there eventually. And part of the reason of me moving to California was I'm like, I'm done with winter.
Hmm. For
But
sure,
sorry,
for
what?
sure. Yeah, I was just gonna ask. So in Nevada City, there's a sect of the Self-Realization Fellowship, right? It's called Ananda.
Yes, right. Which
So
is,
that's a bit different than the one in Encinitas and Los Angeles.
it is. And I just learned more about that. It was like two brothers who kind of took different paths.
Hmm.
Um, Same teaching, same thing, but there's a different vibe to it. And some people resonate with the Ananda more, and some people resonate with the self-realization fellowship more, which I am hands down a self-realization fellowship kind of gal. But
Yeah,
welcome all spirituality.
yeah. I think the Self-Realization Fellowship is a little bit more structured.
hmm
And Ananda, I think they used the original blue book that wasn't edited for the autobiography of a yogi, I
hmm
believe. And then there are other branches of of Yogananda's teachings. There's one in Rochester, New York, of all places, where I actually
Okay.
went to receive my Kriya, which was like a third branch off, which is so interesting. It's all taking the original teachings, but with a slightly different vibe, like you said.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting how it all resonates with different individuals. And whatever resonates with you, I say, follow your heart and that desire.
For sure. For sure. And I lived in
Um,
Encinitas for 8 years. So I was at the Self Realization Fellowship a lot. And I
mhm.
spent a lot of time in those beautiful meditation gardens that Yogananda so beautifully orchestrated. It's just such a sacred space.
Oh, it's incredible. And there's such a presence there just being on those gardens. I love the one in Encinitas, but my home base is the one on First Avenue here in San Diego. Have you ever been to that one?
That's the only one I haven't been to, actually.
Wow. Yeah. For me, let me tell you a little story how I stumbled upon that. Um, so my first year in California, pandemic had hit. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't get my license. I was a cosmetologist for 20 years. I couldn't even get my license here because everything was shut down. So I couldn't do my practical exam and my exams to get to be a licensed cosmetologist here in California. My aunt is a professor in Bakersfield. So I ended up staying with her in Bakersfield for a year, which was an odd blessing in disguise because there wasn't any distractions in Bakersfield. There really wasn't much going on for me
Hmm.
there. So the first year of my California experience, to me, I was like, this doesn't even feel like California, being a
Right.
Midwesterner, it's a totally different vibe. Um, it was great because I started school. My school went fully online. I went to Southern California University of Health Science based in Whittier, right outside of LA.
Hmm.
Uh, but during that time when the pandemic hit and all my school went online, I was able to fully focus on school. I had no work, no distractions. My only saving grace was there was hot springs 35 miles away from my aunt's place, and I went there at least once a week.
Is that the
At least.
Deep Creek Hot Springs?
Not Deep Creek. I love Deep Creek too. This one is called Miracle Hot Springs. It no longer exists, but there's
Okay.
another one nearby called Remington. It's near Kernville in like the Kern Valley.
Oh, beautiful.
And yeah, you have the cold rushing water of the mountain runoff, and then the pools are just right there on the side of the water. So you can do like the hot cold plunge thing, and
That's the
it's really
best.
cool.
That's the
In
best.
nature, and it's free. I mean, it's like it's not regulated.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it's
love Hot
incredible.
Springs so much.
So do I.
California's got some amazing ones for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I'm like a self-proclaimed hot springs junkie. I love hot springs. I go every time I can, and I love Deep Creek too. That's another thing I could talk about. But back to SRF. Yeah, so I was in Bakersfield for a year. I was coming down to San Diego a lot. I had two friends that lived down here, and my friend had an extra bedroom at her place in Baker's Hill, and I ended up moving in with her after a year because Bakersfield just wasn't my jam. And I took out the book, Autobiography of a Yogi. It's a little intimidating. It's like a thick book. So I took it out after carrying it around with me for, I don't know, a few years,
Hmm.
put it on her coffee table, and I'm like, I'm going to go for a hike in the canyon. When I get back, I'm going to start that book. I'm like 3 blocks from her house, and I look up and I see the sign that says Self-Realization Fellowship. And I'm like, no way. Walk onto the grounds, and here it's like the first temple Yogananda ever built in San Diego in like 1946. And I was like in awe. I was like, okay, obviously, like this could not be more of a divine message. It's like slap me in the face, right? Like
Right.
here it is. Here's SRF. Um, I looked at the like itinerary, and that was on a Friday. That Saturday they had like temple service day. I had no idea what it meant. I just showed up at 9 o'clock. Everyone looked at me like, "Who are you? I've never seen you before." And it was like, "You help clean the grounds and keep everything looking pristine." And I showed up for that, and everyone's like, "Wow, we have people that have been coming here for years and have never shown up for this. You've never been here before, and here you are." And it was fun sharing the stories of how everyone's found Yogananda or like Yogananda found them.
hmm hmm Yeah,
And
it seems as though Yogananda appears for people in different ways and
mhm,
arrives in different ways. And for those that don't know, just a little backstory, right? Like Yogananda was a spiritual master that came over from India. I believe he passed in 1954 out of his body, right?
yes.
And
Hmm.
he built these different uh, centers, if you will, or ashrams
Hmm.
around California and in India. There's a few, I think, right?
They're all over the US now
hmm
and India. Like there's so many. I don't know how many there is in totality, but yeah.
Yeah, and so I had lived in a city where he had that ashram in Encinitas, California, and he has another one in downtown San Diego, and then a really big one called Lake Shrine in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
And Yogananda came at a time that was very different from now. You know, there everyone was deeply asleep, and
Hmm.
he was just sharing things that were so profound and new with
Right,
with the Western world.
right.
And he was one of the way showers for yoga, for breath work, for uh, a lot of what spirituality
Meditation.
is today, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's believed by most of his followers that he's the one who brought meditation to the Westerners.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, it's such a huge thing that he did, and his spirit is so alive and present in these spaces still.
Hmm.
It's profound. It's really beautiful. And in Encinitas in particular, it's at the 33rd latitude of the
Ah,
planet, and 33
interesting.
is a sacred number, and
Hmm.
then that goes all the way across to Palomar Mountain, which is also at the 33rd parallel. And there's an
Wow.
ashram over there that he built as well, right by there.
Hmm.
So he was very tapped into these very sacred locations on the planet where I think his the greater spirit through him knew where to place these.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. I recently lived in Escondido, and there's actually a self-realization fellowship there too, which
hmm
Escondido means hidden gem. It is a
hmm
really beautiful place too.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and
There's a lot of really beautiful ashrams in Escondido. Actually, there's Deer Park, which is like a Vietnamese
yes,
Buddhism. There's a
yes.
Tibetan Buddhist temple that um, the Dalai Lama stays at when he comes to San Diego. Those are the two other big ones that I know of over there.
There is one more too, and it's Thought Nhan Hach.
Yeah. hmm
He also has a temple there. Is that the Buddhist one
Yeah,
we
I
were
think so.
talking about?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of an incredible place. I stumbled upon Escondido and I decided to go there for a year to kind of get out of the city and just be more with myself and in nature. And it was a great year. I just moved back down to San Diego in January.
Beautiful.
But
Beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
So
And
you stumble across this self-realization fellowship in
travel.
downtown San Diego. What
Yeah.
happened after that?
I started going to SRF. So I went that Saturday, did the temple cleaning. I went the next day, Sunday, where they had temple service and learned that you could get like the SRF lessons. And it just teaches you about Kriya Yoga and how to get into that deep state of meditation where you're connected with one, where you're connected with source, where you feel you are one with source and you are not separate from, but you are one with the divine. And it's scientific. Kriya Yoga is a science, and in Yogananda's opinion, that is the fastest way to reach divine or God or
hmm
your divinity within is through Kriya Yoga.
hmm
So I believe that, practicing those lessons, if you're kind of spiritually lost and you're looking for this foundation that give you like a nice solid path to show you the way. That's what it did for me. That's what the self-realization fellowship and it continues to do for me. Like every time, I don't miss a Sunday. It's like that's my foundation for my life.
Beautiful. Yeah, and for those that don't know, Kriya, as taught by Yogananda Paramahansa, is a series of movements and which basically leads up to different breath techniques, which there's different levels that you can learn, and it's all available to anyone, right? They
Yeah.
mail these teachings out, and
Yes.
if you don't have a self-realization fellowship temple in your vicinity, you can get mailed these teachings, and there's a very structured way for those of us that like structure to take lesson one, and then it goes all the way through, and then once you've taken all the lessons, you can come to a temple to receive uh, the kriya, right?
Right. And I'm still working through the lessons right now. I have them all, but I'm just now going through them. I think it goes up to 64,
Hmm.
and each little packet has probably 20 to 30 pages of information. So it's a lot of information.
Hmm. For sure. For sure,
Hmm.
yeah, and it's a different. It's beautiful because you can go at your own pace.
Correct.
You can just once you master the first lesson, go on to the next one, and yeah, it's a really beautiful way, and there's so many people that can benefit from that, I believe.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've always been very spiritual. I grew up in a spiritual household and uh through Ayurveda, which is a sister science to yoga, which is all one and the same with Yogananda, Um, it's it can be confusing when there's all this, spiritual knowledge out there. So it's just a great foundation
Hmm.
for certain people. Like, I was previously Christian, and not that there's anything wrong with that path either. I just resonate with the SRF teachings because it's solely based on meditation
Hmm. Yeah,
and how.
absolutely.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
not a
Yeah,
religion. It's not. It's teaching
right,
you how to come back to self. That's
right,
that's in the
right,
name, right? Self-realization.
right.
So
Exactly,
it's
exactly.
it's it's a very it's a very beautiful way. And I want to add that every week there are services, right? Which is kind
Every
of
Sunday.
similar to
Hmm.
church where
Right,
people can
right.
come together. There's a monk that does a
Shares a
talk.
message.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yep.
And then there's a meditation in every one of those as well throughout.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And I love that group meditation. I'm able to get in such a deep, joyous, meditative state. And I just leave there feeling so light and joyful and elevated. And it just sets my tone for the week.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been to
Hmm.
I've been to many services at the Self-Realization Fellowship in Encinitas, and yeah, it's all frequency, right? Depending on which monk
Hmm.
and how much work the monk has done, it's gonna
Yeah.
maybe take you a little deeper in meditation or not,
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
and then obviously how much work the individual has done
Hmm.
also impacts that. I remember the first time I went, I was sitting there with my partner at the time, and my I just started seeing this like blue color in my third eye as we're meditating,
Ooh, look at
and
that.
and it was really beautiful. I just remember uh, being being really held by Yogananda's energy, and
Wow.
feeling really safe and really nourished by that experience.
That's incredible. And part of the meditation is focusing on your third eye.
Hmm.
So where that's coming through, and eventually you see that white light every time you meditate on your third eye. And that hasn't happened to me as of yet, but yeah, it's so beautiful. It's just the unfolding of the lotus flower, right? And all the petals are opening, and you're discovering more and more about yourself.
Hmm.
And it's a great way to get to know yourself and self-love and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, you continue now to go regularly, right?
Yes, yes. When I'm in town, when I'm not traveling, I'm definitely always there.
Hmm.
And they have two services, so it makes it easy. They have an earlier one, and then one's not until 11. And I love chatting with people after the services too. That's my favorite part is
Hmm.
just getting in these really deep conversations with like-minded individuals.
Yeah, it's such a great way to meet people that are on the path and devoted to source and to bettering
For sure,
themselves. You know,
for sure.
it's a beautiful thing. I'm very grateful that that's available for people.
For
So
sure.
let's just break it down for people that haven't heard about Ayurveda. What is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And let's just build from there.
So Ayurveda is a Sanskrit word, which is our oldest known language. And it directly means knowledge of life or science of life or biology
Mm,
of life. So what Ayurveda is breaking down every every individual has a unique constitution. And we break down what their unique constitution is, and then we give them diet and lifestyle and herbal choices that are going to fuel them most efficiently.
okay. That's
Hmm.
beautiful. And
Hmm.
this originated in India, right?
It did, yes. It's about 5,000 years old,
Hmm.
and it's
Beautiful.
always evolving. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so a lot of the herbs that are being used are traditionally grown in India, right?
Correct, correct. Yes. I don't know all of herbalism as a whole, although that is something I plan to dive into. But I will have people come up to me like, "Oh, I take, hawthorn berry for my pressure. Like, what do you think about that?" And being that hawthorn berry is not an Ayurvedic herb, I'm not educated on that. But I
Mm,
can replace that with some Ayurvedic herb. And a lot of them are very common use these days. It's becoming more common practice. Most people have heard of like ashwagandha. Most people know what turmeric is
hmm.
or cardamom, and those are very widely used in Ayurveda. So there's a lot of common herbs, and then there's some that you've probably never heard of before, like Gokshura or Gugaloo or all these other funny names.
Uh-huh.
And they all have their own energetic vibration and their own unique purpose, and they all interact with an individual differently. You and I could take the same herb, but it's going to interact with you differently than it interacts with me. And that's why we find out the individual's constitution first, and they are broken down into what we call another Sanskrit word, doshas, which just means your unique constitution.
Hmm.
And it's doshas are like the energies or the elements. So everything in Ayurveda is based on the five elements: water, air, fire, or earth. What am I missing? Water, air, fire, earth, and ether,
Hmm.
space.
Hmm.
So we're all comprised of these elements. It's the idea that we aren't separate from nature, but we are nature.
Hmm.
You know, humans can kind of have this egoic way about them that they think that we're like above or separate than nature, but we are nature. So
Absolutely.
we have to get back to nature. Our society has grown so far away from that. And in the 70s, there was a big yoga movement. If I say yoga, everyone knows the word yoga.
Hmm.
If I say Ayurveda, very few people know what Ayurveda is.
Exactly.
And in ancient India, they weren't separate entities. If you practice yoga, you practice Ayurveda.
Mm,
They're sister sciences.
hmm.
So there was no separation there. Like if you did one, you did the other.
Hmm.
Um, and yoga was meant to be the spiritual practice of preparing the body for things such as like meditation.
Absolutely.
And and Ayurveda was meant to be more of like the physical practice, which we've kind of even flip-flopped that. We think of yoga as the physical practice and Ayurveda as the spiritual practice. And it
Hmm.
was really the other way around back in ancient India.
Hmm. Absolutely.
It was like Ayurveda is more the physical, how the physical body is doing. Because, if we don't have balance in the mind, body, and soul, all three united balance and harmony, then, we aren't operating at our most optimal level. And that's what Ayurveda is about. How can I, as a human, operate at my highest good and my most optimal level, spiritually, physically, and mentally,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So we need all of those practices in place to do so. So yeah, Ayurveda is very spiritual, and we kind of feel like most dis-ease in the body stems from a restless mind, but also, physically too.
Hmm.
So
Okay,
yeah,
beautiful. So you
yeah,
mentioned the doshas.
hmm,
Can we dive into that a little bit? What are the
yeah,
names of the different ones?
of
Uh,
course.
and I know there's different nowadays. You can go online and you can answer a few questions and they can tell you
Yes,
your dosha, right? Uh,
absolutely.
and I mean those can help, but working with someone like yourself, you can get much deeper and really find the root cause of some of this. Like for me, for example, I'm a triple fire in my
Oh,
astrology.
wow.
So I have a
Hmm.
lot of fire in my body. I'm
Hmm.
always trying to cool myself down, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so what dosha would that be, and what are some of the different doshas that we can be as humans?
Okay, yeah, let's dive into that. So I bet you're very focused and driven.
Yes, I
Yeah,
would say so.
yeah, very
Yeah.
passionate, very
Yeah.
passionate. So what that would be considered in Ayurveda would be the Pitta dosha, which is represented by mostly fire and a little bit of water. Pitta people tend to be very focused, very driven, leaders, leaders more than followers. Just very passionate, very, an intensity about them. They even have this like look and this like fire in their eye, that it's just very, very passionate. And that would be like, and the balance side of that, yes, you're very passionate and driven. The imbalance side of that would be, maybe easily irritated and,
Hmm.
easily to anger or easily frustrated. And so it's like finding the balance with that. And like you said, it's if you're primarily represented by that heat, we're going to counterbalance that with cooling practices. There's something called Shatali breath work, which is a cooling breath where you make
Mm.
like a straw shape with your tongue. And as you inhale the air through that straw shape, it's bringing cool breath into the body.
Hmm.
Um, Also, cooling foods such as like coconut is very cooling,
Hmm.
or dates. And then we're going to fuel the body with certain foods and certain energetics that are going to be cooling in nature, like such as cilantro or, coriander. And we're going to use those to balance out that heat in the body. And we're going to tell you to stay away from spicy foods and direct sun exposure and this and that. And a lot of times, pitta, those are the things pittas love. They're like attracted to the things that actually imbalances them.
Right, right.
But
Yeah, it's really it's such a fascinating science and art. And
Mhm.
I remember when I was learning with one of my friends, I took like a couple of month training with Ayurveda and just to learn about it more, right? And so
Mhm.
I just know the very basics of it, and it was fascinating to me how different herbs and different foods can be also neutral. Like a potato is very neutral, for example, right?
Mhm.
In terms of
Mhm.
energetics.
Yeah, kind of. It can be kind of drying as well. So
Okay.
somebody with a Vata constitution, which is represented by space or like air and ether, more
Hmm.
air, that's going to be very drying. But there are some foods that would be what we call tridoshic, which is the Vata, which is the air and ether, the Pitta, which is the fire and water, and then we have the Kapha, which is the earth and water. And some of these herbs or foods will be balancing to all three.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and that was fascinating. And certain herbs that I would see in the cabinet, that I thought might be heating were actually cooling and vice versa. So
right,
that was
right.
really interesting for me to have those realizations.
Right, right. There's a lot to be educated on with it. And I could study it for the rest of my life and not know all there is to know about it. I was trained by a 14th generational doctor, and he said the same thing. You know,
Mm,
I've been from India, 14 generations back, but trained through Ayurveda, and he's like, I will never know all there is to know about it. So I mean, this is kind of a funny equation, but like, what Western medicine's been around a decade or so,
hmm
and we could fill a library with books on what we've learned Western medicine.
hmm
Well, imagine 5,000 years
Yeah,
history of studying the human nature and just nature in general. Like, if you can fill a library with that, can you imagine how much information there is in
that's like
Ayurveda?
a city of libraries.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's just so many avenues you can go down. But a lot of that in ancient times, around the time of like Alexander the Great, a lot of the information was destroyed.
Yeah, I've read
So
about that.
yeah, which is really sad and also interesting. But they were, scribing the words in Sanskrit. But the thing is, a lot of people had the knowledge anyway because Ayurveda is poetic, and a lot of these formulas that they use to heal people are like spoken in tongue, and they're like written in like beautiful poems.
hmm That's
So
beautiful.
that's how
That's
it got
beautiful.
passed.
I'm just happy that it didn't all get lost and that, it was passed down from generation to generation and we can still
Hmm.
access that because I like to heal as naturally as possible. Try to avoid
Hmm.
as much Western medicine as I can personally.
Yes.
And for me, Ayurveda has been a really beautiful journey with that. And for
Great.
me, the next topic question about this is that
Hmm.
comes into mind is when you look at a person,
Hmm.
different people show their Ayurveda in the way that they look, right? Like they're
And the
different
way they're
doshas.
structured.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like a Vata person who's represented by air and ether, they're going to be really thin.
hmm
They're going to have long, narrow limbs and bones and thinner hair. They're going to be more high energy. They get worried easily. They have more anxiety because think about mobility of air.
hmm
It's very mobile. It's the strongest of all the elements
hmm
because air and ether can move any other element. So it can be a very interesting dosha to balance because it's so mobile, it's so energetic, but that also is a cause for easily burnout. So
hmm
with somebody with a Vata constitution, and you can be a combination. You can be a mixer. You can be tridoshic. You can be all three. You can be mostly Vata with a little Pitta or whatever, what have you. They're all interchangeable because we're all our own unique combination of all of them. Although we all have all three of them in us. But yeah, structurally, you can look at somebody in thin, tall, lanky, maybe, fast moving. That's going to be more of a Vata person.
hmm
If you're looking at a Pitta person, they're going to be like toned, you know, athletic in
hmm
structure. They could maybe not even have to work out and still have like toned muscles, but they're going to be more like your athletes and sports driven and that kind of thing. They're going to have more of an athletic build.
hmm
And a Kapha person represented by Earth is going to be really sturdy and grounded in structure. And
Wide hips for women is very kapha, right?
yes, right, right. Think of like a tree,
hmm
like stability and strong foundation. Yeah, like thicker limbs, wider hips, supple skin, very grounding in energy, very motherly in energy.
hmm
Um, more even the tone of their voice is going to be more smooth, whereas a Vata person, they're going to have this kind of maybe like raspiness to their voice. It's really interesting once you start diving into it. Whereas a Pitta person, their voice, they're going to speak very precise,
Mm,
and they're very like articulate, if you will.
hmm
So yeah, you can, as you become a practitioner, you start looking at everything, and not even people. You'll look at animals, plants, everything. You're like, oh, that's Vata, that's Pitta, that's Kapha. And it's interesting because then that's how you find your unique balance, by balancing what your natural properties are with the other properties. Um, you know, like for a Kapha person, for example, they could, since they're so strong and sturdy and structured, they can also lean towards like inertia or like being a little lazy. So they need the
mm,
energy of Vata, the mobility, and then the fire of Pitta to get them revved up and going.
hmm
So
hmm
we're going to give them foods and herbs, energetics that are going to give them that fuel that gets them fired up. Otherwise, they can have a tendency to, be on the lazier side. So
hmm
that kind of thing. So we help balance energetics in that way.
Yeah, so this is so interesting, and it brings up a question. We have this epidemic of obesity in America, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So, would you say that the kapha energy is just taking the reins with these people, or if they were to stop eating the junk food and the Pepsi, would they naturally just become more pitta or vata, or how, that was just
Yes,
a really interesting question.
that is very interesting. And don't even get me started with Ozempic. I just think it's literally like the opposite of Ayurveda. It completely stifles your digestive fire, where we're trying to balance your digestive fire. It's literally the main cause of dis-ease in Ayurveda would be stifling the digestion. That's what Ozempic does. Anyway, that's a side note. But I just wanted to mention it because so many people are taking that because of the obesity.
Oh, this is the
But
this is the shot that people are taking.
sorry, yes, that is the shot people are taking for weight loss.
hmm And what is it called?
And Ozempic,
Ozempic. Yeah, it's a big thing that I
yeah,
heard a lot of people are doing now.
yeah. And it's shutting down the signals in the brain and turning off the signals because your brain sends signals to your stomach so the food can digest.
hmm
And it sends the enzymes and the gastric juices it needs to the stomach for the food to digest. Well, all those things are getting completely shut off. So the food is literally sitting in your stomach and rotting and fermenting.
Oh God. Okay.
And
So
then,
then it's not getting absorbed really.
well, it does get absorbed, but you're absorbing the rotted, fermented food.
Mm.
That's why everyone who's on these weight loss, there's a bunch out there now besides just Ozempic, that's a name brand. But if you look at people that are on these, they're gaunt, they're dull, they have dark circles around their eyes because your body's trying to make tissue out of the food you consume. And this food is essentially rotting. I mean, think about it. Your body's 98 degrees and it's damp.
hmm
What happens if you leave food out in 98-degree weather in, like, let's say the rainforest? It's
Right.
going to ferment pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And if your food's just sitting in there with no enzymes and gastric juices to digest it, that's the nutrients that your body is absorbing, are those essentially rotten food. And
So
isn't
it's
that
so low in prana.
exactly,
hmm
exactly? It's
Well,
it's
yeah,
yeah.
I'm
Go ahead.
curious about people that are doing smoothies or drinks, like something like that,
Mhm.
like juices. Would that get absorbed better if they're trying to lose weight and they're taking that?
Well, Ayurveda, there's so much to talk about with Ayurveda. It's sheerly based on your digestive tract.
hmm
So, depending on what we call your Agni, which is essentially your metabolism or your digestive fire, um, you're going to absorb different foods differently. Now, one would think that juicing you'd absorb those nutrients very quickly. Um, Depending on what the juice is, like, celery juice was a big craze.
Big time.
But for someone who has, yeah, and I love celery juice. I do it in the spring. That's what part of my spring cleanse, which is another topic I'll dive into, is eating seasonally. and doing a detox at least twice a year in the spring and in the fall.
Hmm.
I'll dive into that too.
Cool.
Um, but with the juicing, if you don't have a little ginger in there to activate the digestive fire, again, you're kind of just stifling the digestive fire with the just the celery juice because it can be heavy. Now, someone with a pitta constitution, they wouldn't have to worry about that. But
Okay.
someone with a vata or a kapha constitution, if they don't have that extra little bit of fire in there, they're just kind of putting out their own fire.
Hmm.
And we want to rev that fire up. We want it to be burning and we want things to be moving through quickly. It's all about, in Ayurveda, we say it's not you are what you eat, you are what you digest. Because if you aren't
Mm.
digesting your food properly, you can be eating all the healthy food in the world. You can say, hey, I'm a raw vegan, but if you're a Vata constitution and somebody that has very low digestive fire or kapha, you're not digesting that food well and you're not absorbing your nutrients well. So, in which
Mm.
case, it doesn't matter how healthy you eat. We need to correct the digestive fire in order for everything to come back into balance.
Makes total sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes total
Yeah.
sense. Okay, that's beautiful. So, uh, do you have any suggestions for the people that are doing the shot?
Um, Come off of it slowly and, obviously talk to your physician about doing so and talk to an Ayurvedic practitioner to correct your digestive fire and Agni because it's been, depending on how long you've been on it, it's been completely stifled. And I will tell you that I took Ozempic because I firsthand I took one dose. I wanted to see what it did to the body
What
so
did,
I could
how was
know.
it? Yeah, how was it for what did you
It
experience?
was the most awful thing that I've ever done to my body.
Mm.
Um, I had the dose at like 8 in the morning, and then we ate a breakfast. Wasn't hungry the rest of the day. And this is like TMI, but like 10 o'clock that night, I was still burping my breakfast. I could taste what I ate that morning at
Oh
8 a.m. And
wow.
it's 10 o'clock at night, and I was still so full. It was hard for me to go to sleep because that food was literally just sitting in my stomach. And I wanted to know firsthand how this affected people and make sure that I knew how to educate people on what it's doing. And that's one of my main focuses is kind of get people off Ozempic and just like bring health back into the picture because these quick fixes are putting a band-aid on the issue and it's not fixing anything.
Hmm.
We're not dealing with our emotional eating habits or what else, what have you, if you're just taking something that's making you not hungry. As soon as you go off it, those emotional issues are still there and everything's going to come back.
Well, I can vouch for that personally because I remember when I sat with ayahuasca and dealt with a
Hmm.
lot of those deep-rooted emotions and like purged and cried and really released a lot.
Hmm.
The 2 days later, my stomach was flat. I was feeling amazing. Like I had a little belly, but just like
Hmm.
that, it
Hmm.
just went away. And
Hmm.
I was shocked. I was like, wow, how did that happen so fast? But it's so connected to our emotional body different
Right.
different people hold fat in different parts of their body, right?
Yes.
And different and just like energy, right? Like for some women, it's common to hold energy in their hips. For
Right.
men, it's common in other areas like their calves or whatnot, and
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
it's fascinating because when we really do the work and address that underlying emotional aspect, that's when things really start to shift for the body as well, and it can happen
Absolutely.
overnight, just like it did
Yeah.
for me.
Right. Right. Yeah. And to kind of go off of what you're saying, when I started Ayurveda and I went to my Ayurvedic doctor who was going to be one of my instructors for an Ayurvedic consultation, which I had never had. And They use the pulse readings to kind of tell you where your Vata, Pitta, and Kapha are at. And they use three fingers to feel the pulse. And each finger is kind of representing the Vata, the Pitta, or the Kapha. And my Pitta was so high. And it was so interesting because you can take a class and just pulse reading and like study that your whole life.
Hmm.
He felt my pulse and he looked at me and he said, "What happened to you as a child that was very traumatic?"
Mm.
By feeling my pulse, he said that. And I
Wow.
said, "Well, my mom died when I was 3 on my third birthday, but it didn't affect me. I grew up with my grandparents and I had a great life. It didn't affect me at all." He goes, "You don't think your mother dying affected you when you were 3?" And I was like, "Oh, no, not at all." I went my whole life like with this stored trauma. And my grandma told me that from the age of 3 to 5, I woke up every single night screaming and crying and saying, "I want my mom." I don't remember doing that. I've completely
Wow.
blocked that out of my memory. But the trauma of this like little 3-year-old girl that nobody could explain where her mother had gone. No, like nobody could explain this to me. Nobody, and I had not thought that that affected me my entire life until I started diving into Ayurveda and spirituality because I had all this stored trauma and I lived majority of my life in fight or flight mode.
Hmm.
And I'm still transitioning out of that. I'm I just turned 40 in February and I'm still releasing that trauma of that little 3-year-old girl who lost her mother.
I mean,
And
that's a
that's what Ayurveda can
huge,
do for you.
yeah, it's such a huge, it's such a huge thing at any age, right?
Right.
But
Hmm.
as a child, without having the tools and the ability to
Right.
self-regulate and the ability
Right.
to have the support in whatever way is needed for that particular individual is
Right.
just so it's such a yeah, that's such a difficult thing to go through. And I'm so
Right.
I'm so happy that you were able to like address that and be able to look at it and start to heal
Right.
it because yeah, I think for me a part of what's happening is there is some repressed energy around my mom passing, even though it was a really
Hmm.
beautiful experience. It happened 5 years ago.
Hmm.
It was one of the most spiritual, beautiful crossing overs I've ever experienced.
Hmm.
And it wasn't like what people say in today's society, like all the mourning and those kind of things, but it was
Yeah.
definitely something that it showed me the beauty of death and of transitioning and
Hmm.
going on
Hmm.
to the next stage, and
Right. Right.
um, I think that uh, it's something I'm still processing, but
Of course.
it is a really it's important. I think the majority of our rooted issues come from our come from our caregivers and our parents.
Right, absolutely. And, these traumatic experiences that we've had that we don't even know affect us. And that's why it's great to, tap into your own individual spirituality or seeking a practitioner who's going to point that out for you so you can actually heal. Because sometimes, like at the beginning of my healing journey, I realized I had, all these negative emotions still and irritability and jealousy and this and that, and I'm like, but I'm doing all the work. What is going on? And it wasn't until I realized I hadn't healed my inner child, my little 3-year-old that was screaming and crying for her mom, until I actually started my healing journey.
That's beautiful.
And that was through Ayurveda, and then through finding my own strength to console myself because no one else really knew how. And I don't blame anyone.
Yeah,
So,
it's an internal process, that each one of us has different challenges and different
mhm.
life. I believe we're in Earth School and we have
Yes,
different
absolutely.
different curriculums, but
Yep,
the same courses just shown to us in different ways.
absolutely. Yeah, it's all part of the journey. And that's why that's the life path. When I decided to embody as a soul on this earth, I chose that because I chose to learn the lessons of that to bring me to where I am today so I might help others.
And that's huge because that's taking your own power back, right?
Right, right.
It's recognizing that every choice that I've made, including my parents that I chose to come back to this planet with, the
Hmm.
family lineage, the every aspect of it, I chose as a soul before I came into this body. And for me, that
Right.
was a huge turning point in my journey because then I could stop blaming my external world and all these
Hmm.
people for
Right.
oh, they did that to me, that's why I'm like this, and that girl broke
Yes.
my heart, so I'm like that now. It's just who I am.
Yep.
And
Right.
there's
Right.
so many people that just say, just take it or leave it, dude, and
Yep.
and it's like, no, you can actually everything is shiftable, malleable, and
Yes.
everything can be healed regardless
Right.
of what it is. If it even the things that the Western world says we don't have a cure for that.
Yes.
Ayurveda might. Ayurveda might
Oh,
be.
right, right. And we're not supposed to say cure, but yeah, we relieve symptoms because we get to the root cause of why they're happening. And a lot of those root causes are something to do with an emotional trauma that you might not even know that your body is holding on to. And that's why you have a physical ailment
Mhm,
because your subtle body is thrown off in some sort of way, which affects your physical body.
mhm. And your subtle
So
body, for those that don't know, is like your aura, or we have in some traditions it's been taught that there's nine energetic bodies outside of
Mhm.
the physical body. So that's what you're in reference to with subtle body,
Yes,
right?
yes. Thank you for clarifying. Yep, yeah, the sheaths and just tapping into our senses, the sight, sound, smell, touch, and doing different meditations around that and sound therapy to actually vibrate your cells at a cellular level to vibrate that trauma out of that cell. There's so many avenues you can take.
Hmm.
Breath work, Ayurvedic work, and all of these things are so healing. You just have to kind of find what works for you. And for me, it was Ayurveda. I knew right away. Like I said, that word would not leave my consciousness. As soon as I heard that word, it just stuck with me. And here
Yeah,
I am studying it. Hmm.
absolutely. And I mean, for me, that's just confirmation that that's what your soul chose for this lifetime was this is the time we're stepping into this now, and
Yes.
it makes me think about how so much of society, not especially in America, is numbed out. They just do
Hmm.
anything
Hmm.
they can to continue the numbing, right? Like they
Absolutely.
numb with going to work. Oh, I'm gonna numb out from that fight I had with my wife because I'm gonna
Hmm.
go to
Hmm.
work and just ignore it. I'm gonna numb out with alcohol after work. I'm gonna
Oh,
numb
yeah.
out with TV after that. I'm gonna numb out with some weed or whatever they're doing to
Absolutely.
numb out. And for the people that are numbing out, they're not connected to their body, right?
Absolutely.
They're so disconnected from the body that there may be a there may be something going on, but they're not even feeling it or experiencing it. And for those people, um, from an Ayurvedic perspective, how do you start by working with those people?
Just recognizing that fact
Hmm.
that you're not being present with yourself. I was the same way. I was a bartender for 15 years and I probably drank when I lived in Chicago, I drank like 5 nights out of the week.
Hmm.
And I didn't think I had a problem at all. And it was just fun to me. And I was a happy drunk and I was like, the life of the party and I was everyone's best friend. But, you know, I didn't realize that that was me escaping from and hiding from my own issues.
Hmm.
So I think the first step is just recognizing that there's something there and speaking with somebody, whether it be an Ayurvedic practitioner or your therapist, a non-biased person to recognize these things, and then go from there.
Hmm.
Start with just recognizing that if I'm numbing out for some sort of reason, and it doesn't have to be like alcohol or drugs, like it could be somebody addicted to working out,
Exactly.
any kind of addiction,
Hmm.
and a lot of people that, oh, I'm not an alcoholic anymore, and now I'm a workout freak, but it's
Right.
just like you're just it's the same thing,
Right. You're
even
just
though
shifting it
maybe
into another
healthier.
avenue.
Right. And so recognizing that there is an addiction or some sort of a numbing out happening, then you can seek the help that you need from there.
Hmm.
I think just recognizing it is the first step.
Hmm.
Um,
And in terms
and
of herbs and things like that you would prescribe, is there any protocols or any how would you approach it from that angle?
well, there's not any protocols in Ayurveda because everyone is so individualized. So
Hmm.
you wouldn't, depending on someone's constitution, um, I give this example a lot. You could have two identical twins and say they both have, I don't know, IBS or Crohn's disease, which are very common these days,
Hmm.
um, which is totally linked to stress, by the way. Um, Even if they're identical twins of the same constitution, because of their like mental state or where they are, I could give them two completely different protocols.
Mm. Hmm.
There's no blanket statement in Ayurveda. There's no, this does this and this does that. It's so individualized that's why it's great to sit down with a practitioner and get your own unique list of, and we say, be do Ayurveda like 80% of the time. Don't not eat a piece of chocolate cake if you so desire.
Hmm.
It's like do so in moderation, but because we don't want to stress out the mind because
Hmm.
you can be so obsessive over like being strict with a certain regimen, but you have to find that balance and harmony within, so uh, you're not restricting the mind as well because
Hmm.
you need the mind to be like light and happy and it's a delicate balance. It is. But once you start to know yourself and know your body, it becomes very easy and effortless because you know what you're consuming and you feel the energetics of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think meditation's a great tool to start with for people that want to come back to themselves, really
Absolutely.
reconnect with self. Meditation's a
Hmm.
great start. Yoga obviously is a great start. Uh,
Right, right.
like moving the body, really setting intention's a huge part too, I think. Just setting an
Hmm.
intention to
Hmm.
uh, figure out why the numbing is happening, why the addiction is happening, what is it
Right,
that I'm
right,
not wanting to look at, and then facing that fear with curiosity, not like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me if I look at this? Is it going to open up a can of
right,
worms?
right. Yeah,
And
I like that.
and it's there's certain ways to do it where it's more gentle, more of that yin energy, where it's not
Hmm.
such a hard hit on the nervous system to go back to
Right.
that space.
Right. Yeah, we want to keep it light. We don't want it to be heavy, but a lot of times it's hard to feel what it feels like to be fully present or embodied. So dropping in with yoga and meditation and breath work, that allows us to be present. And yeah, I believe a great foundation is to start with the mind and the mental state and feeling what it feels like to be present in your body with tools like you said, like yoga, meditation, or I know like the cold plunge thing is super popular right now and it's great for people with lots of pitta, like with you for example.
I feel like I need to set it up immediately because I live in Las Vegas
Hmm.
and it's
Oh
also very
yeah,
hot, you know?
hot and dry. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. See, that would be great for you, but somebody with like a vata or a kapha constitution, especially with a vata, their nervous system can't handle that. That cold plunge
Mm,
is not going to be good for them because we first need to nourish the body before we start trying to like jar it back into place in such like a active sort of way. But for a pitta person, now most pitta people, depending on the individual, that would be a great tool for them to use.
Hmm.
But all of these like fads and these like blanket statements of, you should do this, that, or the other thing, it's really based on the individual according to Ayurveda. We're not going to say everyone should do this or that.
Yeah, for sure. And I had a question for you. So,
Mhm.
being primarily Pitta, I think I have
Hmm.
some Kapha too, but being
Hmm.
primarily Pitta, um, I feel like going in the sauna in the steam room and sweating out all the toxins is really important for me because I feel really cooled off actually afterwards, and especially if I do
Yeah,
a cold shower after.
totally. You're releasing that heat that's trapped in the body by
Mm,
being in the heat.
okay.
Um, and so it is very releasing because you have a lot of heat trapped in the body and it's so detoxifying and
Hmm.
it's great. But again, like what you're saying, it's like, they'll be like, oh, everyone should use the sauna like twice a week. No, not everyone should.
Hmm.
If you're coming from a very depleted body where you need to nourish your tissues, that's going to be very depleting for you.
Hmm.
Everyone needs a good detox, but there's a okay way of going about it and there's a better way of going about it. And we're always going to choose what's best for the individual.
Hmm. And when you say nourish the tissues, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
I can, yeah. So according to Ayurveda, which is much different from Western medicine, your body creates tissues. There's 7 tissues in the body. So, what happens when you consume something? The first thing your body produces is your rasa. Your rasa is equivalent to like your plasma or your white blood cells. And then from there, your body produces the rakta, which is the red blood cells, or like, yeah, your blood
Hmm.
essentially. And when you consume something and your body starts becoming these tissues, um, we want it to be pure and clean and toxified. A lot of people can have toxicity in their blood because of their food not digesting properly.
Hmm.
So then from the rakta, we have the meta, which is the muscle tissue. And then we have the mamsa, which is the fat tissue. And then we have the maja, which is the nervous system.
Hmm.
And then we have the reproductive tissues, which is called the shukra. And your body makes these tissues in this particular order.
Wow.
So if you're gonna, consume something and it becomes that first tissue, if something messes up in that first process there, then that causes the other tissues down the line to have disease. And that's how disease forms in the body.
Mm,
Very interesting, right?
yeah, that's fascinating.
Mhm.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. So we call the tissues the dhatus, is the Sanskrit word for the tissues, and they are made in this particular order. And yep, and how you feel your body is how these tissues are made. And how the disease forms in the body is when there is a disruption in the forming of these tissues.
Which is a direct connection to what's happening emotionally in somebody's life, right?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Right. Because
Okay.
a lot of times when you're in a heightened state or a trauma state or a state, your body isn't digesting your food properly.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then that's causing all the disorders elsewhere in the body.
And so it doesn't matter how healthy you eat if you're not dealing
Right.
with the emotions, it's
Right.
still not digesting properly, right?
1000%. Exactly that. Yes.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because within the last, I don't know, I would say 5 years, Western medicine is really talking about this gut brain connection. Ayurveda has been talking about that for 5,000 years. We
Right.
already knew that the serotonin is made in the gut. We just didn't call it serotonin and use the terminology we have today, but it was all the information and all the knowledge was already there.
Okay, beautiful. So it brings up the question of microplastics. I heard this statistic the other day that every month we on the average human consumes a credit card's worth of microplastics.
I've heard the same thing recently, which is pretty terrifying, right?
Yeah. And how would
Speaking of, I wanted to tap into detoxing seasonally. We should be detoxing the body about twice a year naturally with the rhythms of the earth and the circadian rhythm. Basically, nature knows what it's doing, and it does the same thing yearly. And if we tap into the cycles of nature, um, we will naturally start detoxifying as well. So to help our body already naturally detoxifies itself in spring, and that's why people tend to get sick because they aren't fueling their body right to allow their body to properly detoxify. So it's trying to purge the system, but you're like loading your body with heavy foods, and you want to be eating light foods. There's something called a khichdi cleanse in Ayurveda, which consists of different spices, mung beans, and rice. And if you just eat that for like 3 days, it gives your digestive system a break.
hmm
And when you give your digestive system a break, then your cells and your tissues are able to rejuvenate themselves and detoxify themselves. And there's different detoxifying teas, and it depends on what level of detoxification your body needs,
hmm
what the protocol would look like for that. And going back to what you said a while back, fasting, like when
hmm
you were purging with the ayahuasca and
hmm
I didn't eat, and it's like fasting in Ayurveda is highly recommended to
hmm
do at least 24 hours once a month
Okay.
at least. It just gives the body the chance to relax, and 60% of our daily metabolism goes into digesting food.
hmm
And when you're not allowing your body to do that, your cells are actually able to rejuvenate themselves because all the energy goes into that sort of thing, opposed to digesting food.
So in a 24-hour fast, you're saying just water, uh,
Yeah.
or could you do like some juices, coconut water, things like that, or is that not recommended?
Yeah, you could, depending on your constitution. If you're somebody who's very depleted, such as a Vata person or a Pitta person that has a lot of gastric juices, because you're going to feel that build up, right? And you're going to have like almost indigestion because you have so much gastric juices in your stomach. Something like coconut water or like just celery juice or something like that would be really good for them, just doing like a juice cleanse, in which case,
hmm
again, it's very individualized. So,
hmm
yeah, there's different ways to fuel the body, there's different ways to fast for sure.
Beautiful, beautiful. And in Ayurveda, I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, Ayurveda, right? Uh,
Ayurveda, yeah.
right.
Mhm.
In Ayurveda, when is there certain times of the year when it's recommended to do a little bit of a longer fast? Would spring be one of those
Yeah.
times?
Yeah, spring and fall is when you're going to want to do an actual detoxification. Um, there's also something called pancha karma. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. Pancha means five, karma means action. And that is, there's five systems in the body that we can detoxify. One is I make my own, here we go, product here. This is called Nasya.
Oh, beautiful.
This is a nasal detoxification. So it is primarily organic sesame oil, and then there's Brahmi oil, which is good for the mind, brings calmness and stability and cognitive memory, builds all that. Uh, it also has eucalyptus, ginger, cardamom, organic essential oils, and you place 3 to 5 drops in each nostril and lean the head all the way back, and it helps decalcify the pineal gland, and it completely
Wow.
detoxifies all of the nasal passages. And that is a great one to do in spring because people tend to be very congested.
Okay, that's really beautiful. So as a
Yeah.
kid, I remember now that you mentioned that, I remember as a kid, I always had sinus infections all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we ate pretty healthy as a family. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but there was always allergies. I just was always sensitive to the elements and to my surroundings, and
Mm-hmm.
especially to smells. Smells for me
Mm.
personally has been very sensitive, and even to this day, when somebody's burning one of those fake candles, I
Mm-hmm.
really hard for me to be around it. and strong
Yeah.
colognes that use a lot of
Yeah.
that
Oh,
kind of thing. And so
that's,
I started working with a medicine called Hape. Do you know?
yes.
Yeah, and so that's like a
Hmm.
tobacco snuff. And
Yes.
so when I started working with that, all that is gone because I'm clearing the energy, I'm clearing
Wow.
the sinuses,
Yeah.
and I've been working with it daily for maybe 6 months or more now, that I've been committed to it. And so something like what you mentioned would be really good for people that use Hape often because it'll
Absolutely.
really help the sinuses. That
Lubricate.
yeah.
Right. Whereas hot bay is going to detoxify it and it could be a little harsh. After doing the hot bay, probably give it a day or so in between. I would suggest doing the nausea would re-lubricate those passages. I've never thought of doing those in combination, but I'd love to experiment with that. I'll
Yeah,
send you some of my nausea
that would be
and you can
amazing.
experiment. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it when you said that, it seems like it could really go hand in hand.
I
And
like that.
and
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my buddies who's been doing it for 3 years straight, every day, and he said that he believes it's
Wow.
all about intention. He's never had any issues, any pains, or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think if you're doing it in a really sacred way, you're
Right.
setting the intention with prayer. I believe that the body and the mind and everything's created from the mind. So as long as
Right.
the intention is pure, I think it can be a, a way to really eliminate a lot of those issues.
For sure. Well, everything else falls into place when your mind is at ease, right?
Hmm.
So when you have that like sacred intention, it's like everything, your body knows what to do with it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So another question that came to mind is the myofascial system.
Hmm.
And how would that be considered part of the nervous system when you were mentioning how the food breaks down?
Um, so we don't really like because we use Sanskrit terminology, I believe that that fascia system, I'm not 1,000% sure on this, but would be closely related to the muscle tissue.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what would we call the mamsa tissue.
Hmm.
And there is a lot of, when you have tight fascia, we know that there is a lot of trauma stored right within the body. And if you do work directly with like the nervous system, though, I think this is maybe the connection that you're wondering about. It will help release some of that tension in the muscles because all these layers of tissues are interconnected. So when you work with one, you're going to you might potentially relieve an issue in another tissue um, that you didn't even know was connected.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I ask about the myofascia because uh, with a physical therapy background, I did continued education with myofascial unwinding. And I learned
Very
that the
cool.
myofascia holds emotions.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
somebody might be in a car accident, they might put their arm out to stop themselves going through the windshield, and that might store in your calf of your myofascia, right? And
Ah,
so it's
uh-huh.
not really related, but if you go into that traumatic experience
Hmm.
and and reconnect to it, that myofascia actually lights up for a lot of people. They'll either
Oh,
feel,
wow.
yeah, they'll feel a vibration or a redness in that area, and that's how the
Uh-huh.
practitioner knows to work with that specific area. And then from there, once that's released and unwound, the next area comes, and that's the very basic way that we work with that. And for me
That's
personally,
incredible.
I had an experience where after one of the trainings I unwound for like hours, and the next
Uh-huh.
morning I woke up and I felt like a baby, like a newborn baby
Wow.
again. It was,
'Cause you were so flexible and relaxed.
yeah, I just knew how to surrender because I was meditating a lot.
Wow.
And some of the kids, some of the other students in my class, they were just unwinding their wrist, like only one of their body parts would go. But because I
Hmm.
was already open, it just allowed my whole body to go. And it was funny because we went to see a movie
Incredible.
right after, and I'm unwinding in the movie theater.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah,
Wow.
to me, that's so interesting that, the plasma is formed first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
how, yeah, it just builds from there because, they use
Right.
the stem cells in the plasma in so many ways to heal the body. They'll inject it into somebody's knee or those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things. It's like
Mm-hmm.
all the joints can get relubricated with that.
Exactly. And that's why there's certain few foods you can eat to fuel your body. If you have cracky knees and joints and poppy joints, that means you have dryness in the body, and that equates to a low rasa. And that rasa, aka plasma, there's certain foods such as like coconut water that we're going to give you to fuel that and build those tissues back up. Or, something like with like kind of like a slimy texture, which we use the word snigdha for that in Ayurveda, such as like soaked chia seeds, that
Mm.
really slimy consistency is going to help lubricate the joints. So there's different foods that we're going to fuel the different tissues of the body. And so we're going to give you those to build those tissues so everything is working smoothly and properly.
Oh man, that just connected a lot of dots for me because my joints
Really
have been
cool.
popping and I've been so hot and my lips are drying out
Ah, yep,
and
yep.
and when I
Heat and
took a
dryness.
yeah, and when I had a chia seed drink, I felt amazing.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
See, you're so in tune with your body. You're already tapping into those energetics
Hmm.
of the food.
Hmm.
So
And I
that's incredible.
Yeah, and I got a big case of coconut water and I was doing watermelon juice every morning just because I'm
Mm-hmm.
so I just feel like I just feel so hot.
Right, right. Being in Vegas, absolutely. And environment is a huge determining factor. You put a pitta person that's such as yourself in a hot environment, you're going to have to do a lot more to counterbalance those
Hmm.
things, right? Yeah, go for those cold plunges. Maybe even make your chia seed drink with coconut water. You
Hmm.
know, aloe vera juice would be probably pretty
I
good for
just
you
got some of
too.
that. I just got some of that big
Awesome.
jug of that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that's gonna help fuel your body and cool, cucumbers. Think
Hmm.
of like, cool as a cucumber.
Hmm.
Cucumber juice or just cucumbers themselves in the whole would be incredible for you. Or
Hmm.
um, so different tastes fuel different constitutions or different doshas. And so for pitta, you're gonna want to focus on foods with a sweeter taste, like coconut water.
Hmm.
And by sweet, we don't mean sugar.
Right. Naturally sweet.
Um, naturally sweet. And you're going to do sweet, you're going to do bitter,
Hmm.
and then you're going to do why is this escaping me at this time? But the energetics of like the sweet and the bitter foods are going to fuel your body better and keep you cool.
Hmm.
If
Like
that
a
makes sense.
Yeah, like a lemon juice, lime water, those kind of things, right?
Yes. Uh-huh. And yeah, yep, exactly. That's first thing in the morning, a huge Ayurvedic. Here's a few Ayurvedic tips for a person that's new to Ayurveda.
Hmm.
First thing when you wake up in the morning, at least don't, at least room temperature, not cold. Warm, preferably, depending on your constitution, not for a pitta such as yourself, but lemon water
Hmm.
or lime water,
Hmm.
because what it's going to do is start detoxifying the body, and it's going to start moving that bile, and it's going to start cleansing your gallbladder and your liver, and it's just going to get things moving, and it's a gentle detoxification. So having that lemon water or lime water first thing in the morning is so important in Ayurveda.
Hmm.
And taking 10 minutes to stretch, taking 10 minutes to meditate. I would love, most of my clients to tell them to do it for and meditate for an hour, do yoga for an hour. Most people don't have those time, but
Right.
that kind of time. But even taking 10, 15 minutes to stretch your body and, become fully embodied, do the lemon water and the yoga and the meditation. And if you're like, well, I can't meditate, there's beautiful apps out there to help you now. You can look up guided meditations on YouTube, or I love Insight Timer
Hmm.
and these guided meditations. just help you begin the meditation process so you can, become a meditator because it's hard to tap into that when you don't know how.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all really amazing tips. And I want to add to that, in Kundalini Yoga, we learned about dry brushing.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and
So
dry,
dry brushing is going to help with the lymphatic system.
hmm
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, for me, this is like an expert tip on anxiety. I don't have it
Hmm.
much anymore, but I had it the other morning when I woke up,
Hmm.
and I dry brushed my skin, which is like a different kind
Hmm.
of brush. It's not rough. It's soft, but it
Right.
takes off the top layers of the skin that's already flaking off, and it also
It should be
activates
like
the,
a boar bristle.
okay, right.
Yeah. Sorry. I just wanted to add that, like a boar bristle brush, something in natural fiber.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, or like horsehair, right? Like something like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and when you brush, you want to brush towards the heart. So you start,
Yes.
with the hands, go all the way up to the heart, start with your feet, move it to the heart, and everything goes back to the heart. And so when I did that and then went into the cold shower for maybe a minute,
Hmm.
no longer, I came out of that,
Hmm.
the anxiety was completely gone.
Yeah. Incredible, right? When we tap
Yeah.
into our body. And anxiety in Ayurveda is kind of associated with thinking about the future,
Hmm.
and depression is associated with thinking about the past.
Hmm.
So when we become present and we become one with our body, it helps you to come back into your body and
Hmm.
be in that present moment, right?
Right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
all that is happening is the anxiety is being a little bit out here, a little bit out of the body. And then when you
right,
come back into the body in the present moment, everything's okay. You know?
right.
And
Yeah,
the,
for sure, for
and
sure.
that's all we
Yep.
have is the present moment. So
Yes.
that's the beauty of it. I think um, it's easy for a lot of people in society now to think about, oh, what do I need to be doing? Or, oh my God, I can't believe that person did that to me,
Right,
and those two things
right, right,
right
right.
there are taking us out of now.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can be stuck as the victim, right? A lot of people like don't realize they're in this like victimhood state where it's like everything's happening to them, not for them.
Hmm.
And that's a whole nother topic and switching out of that
You mean
mindset.
for them, not to them.
Right. Yes,
Right,
correct. Yeah, you
right,
got it. You got it. Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. And that's a whole nother topic even.
Yeah.
So but it is a lot of today. We are so we're not embodied and we don't fully love ourselves, and we're so distracted by so many external things. It's like tapping back into um that love for yourself and nature, becoming one with nature again, and realizing we're not separate from, but we are one with nature, and getting back to nature. And there's a huge holistic movement happening now. I think people are recognizing that. I think Western medicine has its place, and I'm not saying anything too bad about that, but it's it's realizing that putting a band-aid on something, on a symptom, and masking a symptom is never going to get to the root cause of the disease, and you're never actually going to heal.
Hmm. Yeah, it cycles back around and comes back and back until it
Hmm.
has to be faced. And
Right.
I saw that, I mentioned this in another podcast, but I saw that in the physical therapy world where there would be these 3-year cycles where if somebody got a knee replacement, they didn't deal with the emotions why they needed a knee replacement.
Right.
Then in
Right.
3 years, they'd come back with another knee replacement or some sort of injury, that same knee or that lower back pain, whatever it was. And
Hmm.
it's cyclical. And really, when those emotions are addressed and we get to look internally, there's so much that can shift and open up in our external reality from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all tied to something, and there's a lot of knee and hip replacements this day and age. Like it's a very common practice. And like you said, if you don't address that on an emotional level, it's going to come back in some way, shape, or form. Absolutely.
Well, Valerie, it was such an honor to have you on today.
Thank
I,
you. Thank you
I,
for having me.
yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and you're
Yeah,
welcome back on the podcast anytime. Uh,
great. I'd love to come back.
yeah, we'd love to have you come back on. It's such a it's there's so much we can talk about. I feel like we just skimmed the surface with Ayurveda,
Absolutely.
and
Hmm.
with so many other things. So, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Great. Thank you.